Picture this, a caravan of traders, laden with silk, spices, and treasures, vanishes without a trace on the ancient Silk Road. No signs of struggle, no clues left behind, just an eerie silence where the bustling sounds of commerce once echoed. This isn't a scene from a mystery novel. It's one of the countless unsolved riddles that haunt the ancient trade routes of our world. For centuries, these routes have been the lifeblood of civilizations, connecting distant lands and cultures. Yet, hidden within their history are mysteries that have baffled historians, archaeologists, and adventurers alike. From lost cities swallowed by the sands to ships that disappeared into the fog of the maritime Silk Road, these enigmas remain unsolved, waiting for someone, perhaps you, to uncover their secrets. Today, we're diving into 30 of the most perplexing riddles of ancient trade routes, each one a tantalizing piece of a puzzle that has endured for millennia. So, are you ready to embark on a journey through time, where every twist and turn reveals a new mystery? Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll not only uncover the stories behind these ancient enigmas, but also discover why they continue to captivate us to this day. Let's begin. Now, let's turn our attention to the first riddle on our list, the legendary Lost City of Ubar, often referred to as the Atlantis of the Sands. This ancient city, steeped in myth and mystery, was said to be a thriving hub along the frankincense trade routes, a vital network that connected the Arabian Peninsula to the Mediterranean world. Frankincense, a precious resin used in rituals, medicine, and perfumes, made Ubar a center of wealth and power. But then, seemingly overnight, the city vanished, swallowed by the desert sands. For centuries, Ubar was thought to be nothing more than a fable, a story passed down through generations. That is, until satellite imagery revealed what appeared to be the remnants of a vast settlement buried beneath the dunes. Archaeological excavations followed, uncovering fragments of walls, pottery, and even evidence of a sophisticated water system. Yet, instead of solving the mystery, these discoveries only deepened it. How could such a prosperous city disappear so completely? Was it a natural disaster like a sudden sandstorm or an earthquake? Or did the shifting trade routes leave Ubar abandoned and forgotten? The truth remains elusive, leaving us to wonder if the Atlantis of the Sands will ever fully reveal its secrets. As we move forward, this riddle serves as a reminder of how even the most advanced tools of modern science can sometimes leave us with more questions than answers. Now, let's journey further along the ancient Silk Road, where another baffling mystery awaits. Picture this, vast caravans laden with silk, spices, and treasures, vanishing into thin air, leaving no trace behind. These were not small groups of travelers, but entire caravans, sometimes consisting of hundreds of people and animals, disappearing without a single clue. The Silk Road, stretching from China to the Mediterranean, was a lifeline of trade and cultural exchange, but it was also a place of immense danger. Bandits, known for their ruthless ambushes, were a constant threat. Entire caravans could be wiped out in moments, their goods stolen, and their members never heard from again. But banditry isn't the only explanation. The Silk Road traversed some of the most unforgiving landscapes on Earth: deserts, mountains, and vast plains. Natural disasters like sandstorms, avalanches, or flash floods could easily swallow a caravan whole, leaving no evidence behind. And then there are the more mysterious theories. Some accounts speak of strange lights in the sky or eerie sounds echoing through the valleys, leading to whispers of supernatural forces at play. Could these vanishings be the work of something beyond our understanding? The truth remains hidden, buried beneath the sands of time, leaving us to wonder what really happened to these lost caravans. As we continue, this riddle reminds us that even the most well-traveled paths can hold secrets that defy explanation. Now, let's turn our attention to the Amber Road, a lesser-known but equally fascinating ancient trade route that connected the Baltic Sea to the Mediterranean. This route was the lifeblood of the amber trade, a precious commodity often referred to as the gold of the north. Amber, with its warm glow and mysterious inclusions, was highly prized by ancient civilizations for its beauty and supposed magical properties. But here's where the mystery deepens. During the height of its use, vast quantities of amber simply vanished from the historical record. Where did it all go? One theory suggests that hidden hoards of amber were buried along the route, either by traders seeking to protect their wealth or by bandits who never returned to claim their loot. Imagine entire caches of amber hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered centuries later. Another possibility is that portions of the amber road itself were lost to time. Natural disasters, shifting landscapes, or even political upheaval could have erased entire stretches of the route, taking their secrets with them. But the intrigue doesn't stop there. Some historians believe that alternate, undocumented paths may have existed, used by traders to avoid tolls or dangerous territories. These forgotten routes could have been the key to transporting amber, but their existence remains unproven. Could these hidden paths still lie undiscovered, holding clues to the missing amber? The disappearance of such vast quantities of amber raises questions not just about the trade itself, but about the people who relied on it. Amber was more than just a luxury item. It was a symbol of status, a medium of exchange, and even a form of ancient currency. Its loss would have had a profound impact on the economies and cultures of the time. As we ponder the fate of the Amber Road's hidden treasures, we're reminded that even the most valuable commodities can vanish without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. What secrets might still be buried along this ancient route, waiting to be uncovered? The mystery endures, inviting us to imagine the stories that amber could tell if only it could speak. Next, we'll explore another enigmatic chapter in the history of ancient trade routes, one that involves a color so rare and valuable that it became synonymous with royalty. Stay with us as we unravel the mystery of the Phoenician purple dye. Now, let's journey to the shores of the ancient Mediterranean, where a color so rare and luxurious once captivated the world. The Phoenician purple dye, known as Tyrian purple, was more than just a pigment. It was a symbol of power, wealth, and divine favor. Extracted from the secretions of the murex sea snail, this dye was so labor-intensive to produce that it became one of the most expensive commodities of the ancient world. Kings, emperors, and high priests adorned themselves in garments dyed with Tyrian purple, making it a status symbol like no other. But here's the twist: despite its fame, the exact method of its production remains shrouded in mystery. The process of creating Tyrian purple was a closely guarded secret, known only to a select few artisans in the ancient cities of Tyre and Sidon. Thousands of murex snails were required to produce just a single gram of dye, and the extraction process was both time-consuming and foul-smelling. Ancient texts describe the stench of the dye workshops as so overpowering that they were often located on the outskirts of cities. Yet, the precise techniques used to extract and stabilize the dye have been lost to time. Why did such a valuable and widely traded commodity leave so few clues about its production? One theory suggests that the Phoenicians deliberately destroyed their dye-making knowledge to maintain their monopoly. By keeping the process secret, they ensured that no other civilization could replicate their prized product. Another possibility is that the knowledge was passed down orally, never written down, and eventually faded away as the Phoenician civilization declined. Some historians even speculate that natural disasters or invasions may have wiped out the dye-making centers, taking their secrets with them. But the mystery doesn't end there. Modern attempts to recreate Tyrian purple have yielded mixed results. While scientists have identified the chemical compounds responsible for the dye's vibrant hue, replicating the exact shade and durability of the ancient dye has proven elusive. Could there have been an additional ingredient or technique that we've yet to uncover? Or was the true secret of Tyrian purple something more than just chemistry, perhaps a combination of skill, tradition, and even a touch of magic. The Phoenician purple dye reminds us that even the most celebrated achievements of the ancient world can vanish, leaving behind only fragments of their story. As we marvel at the brilliance of this ancient color, we're left to wonder, what other secrets of the past remain hidden, waiting to be rediscovered? Next, we'll venture into the deserts of Arabia, where another ancient trade route holds its own set of unanswered questions. Join us as we explore the enigma of the Incense Route and the mysteries it left behind. Now, let's turn our gaze to the windswept deserts of Arabia, where the ancient Incense Route once carried the fragrant treasures of the ancient world. This legendary network of trade paths stretched over 1,000 miles, connecting the southern Arabian Peninsula to the bustling markets of the Mediterranean. Frankincense and myrrh, harvested from the resin of rare trees, were among the most sought-after commodities of their time, used in religious rituals, medicine, and even as luxury goods. But as we trace the footsteps of the caravans that once traversed this route, we're met with a puzzling question. Why did such a vital artery of trade and culture fade into obscurity? The Incense Route thrived for centuries, with cities like Petra and Gaza flourishing as hubs of commerce. Caravans laden with precious resins braved harsh deserts, bandit raids, and shifting sands to deliver their cargo to distant lands. Yet, despite its prominence, the historical records of the Incense Route are riddled with gaps. Why did such a well-documented trade network leave so many unanswered questions about its decline? One theory points to the rise of maritime trade routes, which offered faster and safer alternatives to the arduous overland journey. As ships began to dominate the movement of goods, the Incense Route gradually lost its economic significance. Another possibility lies in the changing tastes and priorities of the ancient world. With the spread of Christianity and the decline of pagan rituals, the demand for frankincense and myrrh began to wane. These once prized substances, central to religious ceremonies, were no longer as essential in a world undergoing profound cultural shifts. Additionally, the collapse of empires that once supported and protected the route, such as the Nabateans and the Romans, may have contributed to its decline. Without the infrastructure and security provided by these powers, the Incense Route became increasingly vulnerable to disruption. But the mystery deepens when we consider the physical remnants of the route itself. While some caravanserais and way stations have been discovered, many key locations remain lost to time. What happened to the bustling markets and thriving communities that once lined this path? Were they swallowed by the desert sands, or did they simply vanish as the trade dried up? Archaeologists continue to search for answers, uncovering fragments of pottery, inscriptions, and even the remains of ancient storage facilities. Yet, the full story of the Incense Route's decline remains elusive. The enigma of the Incense Route serves as a reminder of how even the most vital trade networks can fade into history, leaving behind only whispers of their former glory. As we ponder the fate of this ancient path, we're left to wonder, what other secrets lie buried beneath the sands of Arabia, waiting to be uncovered? Next, we'll journey across the vast expanse of the Sahara, where another ancient trade route holds its own mysteries. Join us as we explore the lost gold of the Trans-Saharan trade and the unanswered questions surrounding its disappearance. Now, let's venture into the vast and unforgiving expanse of the Sahara Desert, where the Trans-Saharan trade routes once carried unimaginable wealth across the sands. This network of paths connected the gold-rich kingdoms of West Africa, such as Ghana and Mali, to the bustling markets of North Africa and beyond. Gold, a symbol of power and prosperity, flowed along these routes in staggering quantities, fueling empires and shaping the course of history. But as we follow the trail of this precious metal, we're confronted with a baffling mystery. Where did all that gold go? The Trans-Saharan trade was a marvel of human ingenuity and endurance. Caravans of camels, sometimes numbering in the hundreds, braved scorching heat, sandstorms, and the constant threat of bandits to transport gold, salt, and other goods across the desert. These journeys could take months, with traders relying on ancient knowledge of oases and trade routes passed down through generations. Yet, despite the wealth that moved through this network, much of the gold seems to have vanished without a trace. What happened to these vast quantities of treasure? One compelling theory suggests that the gold may have been hidden away in secret caches, buried by traders or rulers to protect it from raiders or political upheaval. The Sahara is a vast and ever-changing landscape with shifting sands capable of swallowing entire caravans. Could it be that some of these hidden hoards still lie beneath the dunes, waiting to be discovered? Over the centuries, tales of lost gold have sparked countless expeditions, but the desert guards its secrets well. Another possibility lies in the role of the desert itself. The Sahara is not a static environment. Its sands are constantly on the move, reshaping the land and obscuring ancient paths. Entire trade routes and settlements may have been buried over time, taking their treasures with them. Archaeologists have uncovered remnants of these lost worlds, fragments of pottery, tools, and even the ruins of caravanserais, but the gold remains elusive. Could the shifting sands have erased the evidence of its final resting place? Adding to the mystery is the lack of detailed historical records. While we know that gold was a cornerstone of the Trans-Saharan trade, the specifics of its movement and storage are often unclear. Some scholars believe that much of the gold was melted down and recast into new forms, making it difficult to trace. Others suggest that it may have been dispersed across distant lands, absorbed into the economies of far-off empires. The truth remains shrouded in uncertainty. The disappearance of the Trans-Saharan gold is a reminder of how even the most valuable treasures can slip through the cracks of history. As we ponder the fate of this lost wealth, we're left to wonder, could the Sahara still hold untold riches beneath its sands, or has the gold been lost to time forever? Next, we'll set sail across the Indian Ocean to uncover the secrets of a forgotten port city. Join us as we explore the mystery of Rapta, a once thriving hub of trade that vanished from the pages of history. Now, let's leave the shifting sands of the Sahara behind and set our sights on the shimmering waters of the Indian Ocean, where another ancient mystery awaits. Hidden somewhere along the eastern coast of Africa lies the forgotten port city of Rapta, a place that once thrived as a bustling hub of trade but has since vanished from the map. Mentioned in Roman texts as a key player in the Indian Ocean trade network, Rapta's exact location remains one of history's most tantalizing riddles. Rapta was no ordinary port. According to ancient accounts, it was a vital link in a vast network that connected the Roman Empire with the riches of East Africa, Arabia, and even distant India. Ships laden with ivory, tortoiseshell, and exotic spices would dock at its harbors, exchanging goods that fueled the economies of empires. The city was said to be a melting pot of cultures, where traders from across the known world gathered to barter and share stories. Yet, despite its prominence in historical records, Rapta has never been definitively found. How could such an important city simply disappear? One theory suggests that Rapta may have been located in what is now modern-day Tanzania, near the Rufiji River Delta. This area was known for its natural harbors and abundant resources, making it an ideal spot for a thriving port. However, archaeological evidence has been scarce, and the dense mangrove forests and shifting coastlines have made exploration challenging. Could the remnants of Rapta lie buried beneath the mud and vegetation, waiting to be uncovered? Another possibility is that Rapta's decline was tied to the shifting tides of trade. As new routes emerged and empires rose and fell, the city may have lost its strategic importance. Without the constant flow of goods and wealth, Rapta could have faded into obscurity, its once bustling streets reclaimed by nature. Some historians even speculate that rising sea levels or natural disasters may have played a role in its disappearance, leaving behind only fragments of its former glory. Adding to the mystery is the lack of detailed descriptions in ancient texts. While Raptor is mentioned by Roman geographers like Ptolemy, the accounts are often vague and contradictory. Some describe it as a wealthy city with grand buildings, while others paint a more modest picture. This ambiguity has fueled endless debates among scholars, with each new theory offering a different piece of the puzzle. Could Raptor have been a collection of smaller settlements rather than a single city, making it even harder to pinpoint? The story of Raptor is a reminder of how even the most prosperous cities can vanish from history, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. As we search for clues to its location, we're left to wonder, what secrets might this lost port still hold? Could its discovery rewrite our understanding of ancient trade networks, or will it remain an enduring enigma of the Indian Ocean? Next, we'll turn our attention to another group of traders who vanished from the pages of history. Join us as we explore the disappearance of the middlemen who once dominated the ancient spice routes. Now, let's shift our focus from the lost port of Raptor to another puzzling disappearance that left a gaping hole in the history of ancient trade. This time, we're diving into the enigmatic vanishing of the middlemen who once dominated the spice routes. These traders were the unsung heroes of the ancient world, connecting producers in far-flung regions with eager buyers in bustling markets. Yet, at some point, entire groups of these intermediaries simply disappeared from the historical record, leaving behind a mystery that continues to baffle historians. The spice trade was one of the most lucrative and complex networks of the ancient world. Spices like cinnamon, pepper, and cardamom were not just culinary luxuries, they were symbols of wealth, power, and even medicine. To move these precious goods from their places of origin in places like India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East to markets in Europe and beyond, a vast network of middlemen was essential. These traders acted as the vital link between producers and consumers, navigating treacherous routes, negotiating deals, and ensuring the flow of goods across continents. But here's the mystery. While we know a great deal about the spices themselves and the empires that consumed them, the middlemen who made it all possible are conspicuously absent from much of the historical record. How could such a crucial group vanish without a trace? One theory suggests that the middlemen were often nomadic or semi-nomadic groups, moving frequently and leaving little behind in the way of permanent settlements or written accounts. Without fixed cities or monuments to mark their presence, their role in history may have been easily overlooked. Another possibility is that the middlemen were deliberately erased from the narrative by the empires that relied on them. In many cases, powerful states sought to control the spice trade directly, cutting out the intermediaries to maximize profits. This could have led to the suppression or marginalization of these traders in official records, effectively writing them out of history. Additionally, the rise of new trade routes and technologies may have rendered their role obsolete, causing them to fade into obscurity. The disappearance of these middlemen has left significant gaps in our understanding of how ancient spice networks functioned. Without their stories, we're left to piece together the puzzle using fragments of evidence, scattered references in texts, archaeological finds, and the occasional mention in travelers' accounts. Some scholars believe that the middlemen may have been absorbed into larger trading communities, their identities blending into the broader tapestry of history. Others argue that their disappearance was more abrupt, perhaps tied to political upheaval, economic shifts, or even natural disasters. What makes this riddle particularly intriguing is the sheer scale of the spice trade and the undeniable importance of these middlemen. They were the glue that held the network together, yet their absence from the historical record raises more questions than answers. Were they victims of circumstance, or did they simply vanish into the shadows of history, their contributions forgotten over time? As we ponder the fate of these forgotten traders, we're reminded of how fragile the threads of history can be. The next time you sprinkle a pinch of pepper or cinnamon into your meal, take a moment to think about the unseen hands that once carried these spices across deserts, mountains, and seas. Their story may be lost, but their legacy lives on in the flavors that continue to connect us to the ancient world. Next, we'll journey to the rugged terrain of the Tea Horse Road, where another mystery awaits, one that involves treacherous paths, vanished traders, and the enduring allure of tea and horses. Now, let's turn our attention to the rugged and mysterious Tea Horse Road, a lesser-known but equally fascinating trade route that winds through some of the most treacherous terrain in Asia. This ancient network, stretching from the lush tea-growing regions of southern China to the high plateaus of Tibet, was a lifeline for traders transporting tea, horses, and other goods. Yet, along its winding paths, stories of vanished traders and unexplained disappearances have left historians and adventurers alike scratching their heads. The Tea Horse Road, often overshadowed by the more famous Silk Road, was no less significant in its time. For centuries, it served as a vital artery connecting the tea-producing regions of Yunnan and Sichuan with the horse-breeding areas of Tibet. Tea, a prized commodity, was exchanged for sturdy Tibetan horses, which were essential for military and transportation purposes in China. This exchange wasn't just about goods, it was a cultural bridge, fostering connections between diverse peoples and shaping the economies of both regions. But the Tea Horse Road was not for the faint of heart. Its route snaked through towering mountain passes, dense forests, and raging rivers, presenting countless dangers to those who dared to traverse them. Traders faced not only the perils of nature but also the threat of bandits and political instability. It's no wonder that many who set out on this journey never returned. The disappearances of these traders remain one of the great unsolved riddles of ancient trade routes. Geography played a significant role in these mysteries. The Tea Horse Road's remote and rugged terrain made it difficult to establish permanent settlements or maintain consistent trade routes. Traders often relied on seasonal paths, which could shift due to landslides, floods, or other natural disasters. In such an unpredictable environment, it's easy to see how entire caravans could vanish without a trace, swallowed by the mountains or lost in the dense wilderness. Politics also added another layer of complexity to the Tea Horse Road's history. The route passed through regions that were frequently contested by rival kingdoms and empires. Shifting alliances, territorial disputes, and outright conflict could disrupt trade and endanger travelers. Some historians speculate that the disappearances of traders may have been linked to these political upheavals, with caravans falling victim to raids or being caught in the crossfire of regional power struggles. Despite the dangers, the Tea Horse Road thrived for centuries, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of those who traveled it. Yet, the stories of those who disappeared along the way remind us of the risks they faced. Were these traders victims of the unforgiving landscape, or did they fall prey to the machinations of warring factions? The answers remain elusive, buried beneath layers of history and legend. As we reflect on the hidden paths of the Tea Horse Road, we're reminded of the courage it took to navigate such a perilous journey. The next time you sip a cup of tea, consider the incredible journey it might have taken to reach your hands, a journey fraught with danger, mystery, and the enduring spirit of those who dared to traverse one of the world's most enigmatic trade routes. Next, we'll set sail on the maritime Silk Road, where the mysteries of vanished ships and uncharted waters await. Now, let's shift our gaze from the rugged mountains of the Tea Horse Road to the vast, unpredictable waters of the maritime Silk Road. This ancient sea route, stretching from the coasts of China to the shores of the Mediterranean, was a bustling network of trade and cultural exchange. Ships laden with silk, spices, and precious goods sailed these waters, connecting distant civilizations. Yet, beneath the waves lies a darker tale, one of vanished ships and enduring mysteries that continue to baffle historians and explorers. The maritime Silk Road was a marvel of its time, a testament to human ingenuity and the desire to connect across vast distances. Unlike its overland counterpart, this route relied on the power of the wind and the skill of sailors to navigate treacherous seas. Ships from China, India, Arabia, and beyond crisscrossed the Indian Ocean, carrying not only goods but also ideas, religions, and technologies. It was a lifeline for empires, a source of wealth, and a bridge between worlds. But the sea, as beautiful as it is also unforgiving. One of the most perplexing riddles of the maritime Silk Road is the unexplained disappearance of ships that set sail and never reached their destinations. These vanishings were not isolated incidents but recurring events that left traders and rulers alike searching for answers. What happened to these vessels? Were they victims of nature's fury, or did human greed and violence play a role? Theories abound, each offering a glimpse into the dangers that lurked along this ancient trade route. Storms are often cited as a primary culprit. The Indian Ocean is notorious for its sudden and violent tempests, capable of swallowing even the sturdiest of ships. Without modern navigation tools or weather forecasting, sailors were at the mercy of the elements. A single storm could scatter a fleet, sending ships off course or plunging them into the depths. The remains of these vessels, if they exist, lie hidden beneath the waves, their stories lost to time. Piracy is another compelling explanation. The maritime Silk Road was a lucrative target for pirates who preyed on heavily laden ships. These raiders, often based in remote coastal areas, would ambush vessels, plunder their cargo, and sometimes take the crew captive. Some historians believe that entire ships were commandeered, their crews either killed or forced into servitude. The lack of records from these incidents only deepens the mystery, leaving us to wonder how many ships met this fate. Uncharted hazards also played a role in the disappearances. The maritime Silk Road spanned vast and poorly mapped waters with hidden reefs, shifting sandbars, and unpredictable currents. Even experienced sailors could fall victim to these unseen dangers, their ships wrecked and their cargo lost. In some cases, entire fleets may have vanished after encountering such hazards, their fate unknown until modern explorers stumbled upon their remains. Theories aside, the true fate of these vanished ships remains shrouded in mystery. Were they lost to the fury of the sea, the greed of pirates, or the treachery of uncharted waters? Perhaps it was a combination of all three. What we do know is that these disappearances remind us of the risks faced by those who dared to sail the maritime Silk Road. Their courage and determination shaped the course of history, even as their stories were swallowed by the waves. As we ponder the fate of these lost ships, we're reminded of the enduring allure of the maritime Silk Road, a route that connected civilizations but also claimed its share of victims. The next time you marvel at the treasures of ancient trade, spare a thought for the sailors who braved the unknown. Their journeys a testament to the human spirit's unyielding quest for connection and discovery. Next, we'll journey to the legendary mines of King Solomon, where tales of unimaginable wealth and mystery await. Now, let's turn our attention from the treacherous waters of the maritime Silk Road to the legendary tales of King Solomon's mines, a mystery that has captivated treasure hunters and historians for centuries. These fabled mines, said to be a source of unimaginable wealth, are believed to have supplied King Solomon with vast quantities of gold, copper, and precious stones, fueling his empire's prosperity and influence. Yet, despite countless expeditions and decades of research, the true location of these mines remains one of history's greatest unsolved riddles. The legend of King Solomon's mines is deeply intertwined with ancient trade routes, particularly those that connected the Middle East with Africa. According to biblical accounts, Solomon's wealth was unparalleled, with gold flowing into his kingdom from distant lands. Some scholars believe these mines were located in the region of Ophir, a place mentioned in ancient texts but never definitively identified. Others suggest they may have been in southern Arabia or even as far as Zimbabwe, where ancient gold mining sites have been discovered. The mystery lies not only in the mine's location, but also in how such a vast operation could vanish from historical records. One theory points to the possibility that the mines were not a single location, but a network of sites spread across different regions. This would explain why no single place has been conclusively linked to Solomon's legendary wealth. Ancient trade routes likely played a crucial role in transporting the mined resources, with caravans and ships carrying gold and other treasures to distant markets. Over time, as empires rose and fell, the knowledge of these routes and the mines they connected may have been lost, buried under layers of history. Another intriguing aspect of this mystery is the role of myth and exaggeration. Stories of Solomon's wealth grew over time, blending fact with fiction. Some historians argue that the mines may not have been as grand as the legends suggest, or that their output was exaggerated to enhance Solomon's reputation. This raises the question, were the mines truly a source of endless riches, or were they a symbol of power and prosperity that took on a life of their own in the retelling? Modern technology has brought new hope to the search for Solomon's mines. Satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and advanced archaeological techniques have been employed to uncover clues. Yet, despite these efforts, the mines remain elusive. Some believe they may have been exhausted and abandoned, their entrances hidden by natural forces or human intervention. Others speculate that the mines were deliberately concealed to protect their treasures from invaders or rival kingdoms. The enduring mystery of King Solomon's mines reminds us of the allure of lost treasures and the lengths to which people will go to uncover them. It also highlights the complex interplay between history, legend, and the human desire to solve the unsolvable. As we continue to search for answers, we're reminded that some riddles of the ancient world may never be fully unraveled, leaving us to wonder what secrets still lie buried beneath the sands of time. Next, we'll delve into the enigmatic decline of the Roman glass trade, a mystery that sheds light on the fragility of ancient economies and the forces that shaped their rise and fall. Shifting our focus from the legendary riches of King Solomon's mines, we now turn to a different kind of treasure, one that was both practical and luxurious: Roman glass. The Roman Empire was renowned for its mastery of glassmaking, producing everything from everyday containers to exquisite works of art. Yet, the sudden decline of this thriving industry remains one of the most puzzling mysteries of ancient trade. How could such a vital and widespread craft vanish almost entirely, leaving behind only fragments of its former glory? The Roman glass trade was a cornerstone of the empire's economy, with production centers scattered across its vast territories. From Syria to Italy, skilled artisans crafted glassware that was traded far and wide, reaching markets as distant as India and China. Roman glass was not only functional but also a symbol of status and sophistication. Its vibrant colors and intricate designs were highly prized, making it a key commodity in both local and international trade networks. So, what caused this flourishing industry to collapse? One theory points to the economic and political instability that plagued the Roman Empire in its later years. As the empire began to fragment, trade routes became increasingly unsafe, disrupting the flow of raw materials and finished goods. Glass production required a steady supply of high-quality sand, soda ash, and other resources, which became harder to secure as the empire's infrastructure deteriorated. Without these essential materials, many glassmaking centers were forced to shut down, leading to a sharp decline in production. Another factor may have been the rise of alternative materials. As the empire's economy weakened, cheaper alternatives like pottery and metal ware began to replace glass in everyday use. While glass remained a luxury item, its widespread use diminished, reducing demand and further crippling the industry. Additionally, the loss of skilled artisans, either through migration or the collapse of apprenticeship systems, may have contributed to the decline. The intricate techniques required to produce high-quality glass were not easily passed on, leading to a gradual erosion of expertise. The disappearance of Roman glass production centers also had a ripple effect on ancient economies. Glassmaking was not just an industry, it was a network of interconnected trades, from mining and transportation to craftsmanship and trade. Its decline disrupted these networks, leading to job losses and economic instability in regions that had once thrived on glass production. The loss of such a valuable export also weakened the empire's ability to trade with distant markets, further isolating it from the global economy. Despite the decline, the legacy of Roman glass endures. Fragments of glassware have been found in archaeological sites across the world, offering glimpses into the artistry and innovation of Roman craftsmen. Modern researchers continue to study these artifacts, hoping to uncover clues about the industry's decline and the broader forces that shaped the ancient world. Yet, the enigma of the Roman glass trade remains unsolved, a testament to the fragility of even the most advanced economies. As we move forward, we'll explore another mystery tied to the ancient world, the Jade Road, a trade route that connected China with Central Asia and left behind its own set of unanswered questions. Now, let's journey from the shimmering remnants of Roman glass to the enigmatic pathways of the Jade Road, a trade route that wove through the heart of ancient Asia. While the Silk Road often steals the spotlight, the Jade Road played an equally vital role in connecting ancient China with the vast and diverse regions of Central Asia. Yet, despite its significance, this route remains shrouded in mystery, with gaps in its historical records that continue to baffle researchers. The Jade Road was more than just a path for trade, it was a lifeline for cultural exchange. Jade, a stone revered in Chinese culture for its beauty and spiritual significance, was the primary commodity transported along this route. From the mountains of modern-day Xinjiang to the bustling markets of Central Asia, jade traveled thousands of miles, becoming a symbol of power, wealth, and divine favor. But how did this intricate network of trade routes function, and why do so many details about its operation remain elusive? One of the most puzzling aspects of the Jade Road is the lack of detailed historical accounts. Unlike the Silk Road, which was well documented by travelers and historians, the Jade Road left behind only fragmented records. Some scholars suggest that this scarcity of information may be due to the route's reliance on oral traditions and local networks, which were less likely to be recorded in official text. Others point to the harsh and remote terrain the route traversed, making it difficult for chroniclers to document its full extent. The Jade Road's connection between ancient China and Central Asia was not just about trade, it was also a conduit for ideas, technologies, and artistic influences. Alongside jade, goods like silk, spices, and precious metals flowed in both directions, fostering a vibrant exchange of cultures. Yet, the exact pathways of this route remain unclear. While some sections have been identified through archaeological discoveries, others are still a matter of speculation. Were there hidden branches of the Jade Road that have yet to be uncovered? And what role did local tribes and nomadic groups play in maintaining and protecting these routes? Another intriguing mystery is the sudden decline of the Jade Road's prominence. While the Silk Road continued to thrive for centuries, the Jade Road seemed to fade into obscurity. Some theories suggest that shifts in political power and trade priorities may have redirected focus away from jade. Others propose that environmental changes, such as desertification or shifting river courses, made the route increasingly difficult to navigate. Whatever the cause, the Jade Road's decline left behind a trail of unanswered questions. Despite these gaps, the legacy of the Jade Road endures. Jade artifacts from this period have been found in archaeological sites across Central Asia and China, offering tantalizing clues about the route's reach and influence. Modern researchers continue to piece together its story, using advanced technologies like satellite imagery and geochemical analysis to trace the origins of jade and map potential trade routes. Yet, the full picture of the Jade Road remains incomplete, a testament to the enduring allure of ancient trade mysteries. As we leave the Jade Road behind, our next stop takes us to another fascinating enigma, the lost caravanserais of the Silk Road, where the echoes of vanished travelers still linger. Shifting our focus from the enigmatic Jade Road, we now turn to another mystery that lies along the Silk Road, the lost caravanserais. These ancient way stations, once bustling hubs of trade and rest, played a crucial role in the success of the Silk Road. Yet, many of these vital stops have vanished from history, leaving behind only whispers of their existence and a trail of unanswered questions. Caravanserais were more than just resting places for weary travelers and their camels. They were the lifeblood of the Silk Road, providing shelter, food, and security for merchants and their goods. These sprawling complexes often included stables, storage rooms, and even markets, creating miniature cities in the middle of vast deserts and mountain passes. Without them, the Silk Road as we know it could not have functioned. But what happened to these essential way stations, and why did so many disappear? One of the most puzzling aspects of the lost caravanserais is the lack of physical evidence. While some ruins have been discovered, many sites remain unaccounted for, their locations lost to time. This absence has led to a range of theories. Some historians suggest that natural disasters such as earthquakes or floods may have destroyed these structures, erasing them from the landscape. Others point to the shifting sands of deserts, which could have buried entire caravanserais, leaving no trace for modern archaeologists to uncover. Another possibility is that the decline of the Silk Road itself led to the abandonment of these way stations. As trade routes shifted and new maritime paths emerged, the need for overland caravanserais diminished. Without the steady flow of merchants and goods, many of these structures may have fallen into disrepair and were eventually forgotten. Yet, this explanation raises further questions. Why were some caravanserais preserved while others vanished entirely? And what role did local communities play in their decline? The disappearance of these caravanserais had a profound impact on trade along the Silk Road. Without these safe havens, merchants faced greater risks and challenges, making long-distance trade more difficult and less profitable. This disruption likely contributed to the eventual decline of the Silk Road as a major trade network, but the loss of these way stations also left a cultural void. Caravanserais were not just places of commerce. They were centers of cultural exchange where travelers from different regions shared stories, ideas, and traditions. Their disappearance represents a lost chapter in the history of human connection. Modern efforts to locate and study these lost caravanserais have yielded some fascinating discoveries. Satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar have revealed the outlines of buried structures, offering glimpses into their design and scale. Yet much remains unknown. Were there caravanserais that served as secret refuges for traders escaping bandits or political turmoil? Did some of these way stations house hidden treasures now lost beneath the sands? The answers to these questions continue to elude us, adding to the enduring mystery of the Silk Road. As we ponder the fate of these lost caravanserais, our journey takes us next to another intriguing riddle: the vanished traders of the Lapis Lazuli route, where the blue gemstone's journey from Afghanistan to Mesopotamia holds its own secrets. Now, let's turn our attention to the shimmering blue gemstone that captivated ancient civilizations, Lapis Lazuli. This precious stone, mined in the rugged mountains of Afghanistan, traveled thousands of miles along the Lapis Lazuli route to reach the bustling markets of Mesopotamia. But this journey was not without its dangers, and the disappearance of the traders who carried this prized commodity remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Lapis Lazuli was more than just a beautiful stone. It was a symbol of power and prestige. Ancient Mesopotamians used it to craft intricate jewelry, religious artifacts, and even the iconic eyes of their statues. The demand for this gemstone was so high that it fueled a thriving trade network stretching from the mines of Afghanistan to the cities of Mesopotamia. Yet, somewhere along this route, entire groups of traders vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and speculation. One of the most compelling theories about their disappearance involves the harsh and unpredictable terrain they had to navigate. The lapis lazuli route passed through some of the most treacherous landscapes in the ancient world, including towering mountain ranges and vast deserts. Natural disasters such as avalanches, landslides, or sudden sandstorms could have easily claimed the lives of these traders, burying their caravans and their precious cargo under layers of rock or sand. The unforgiving environment would have left little evidence for future generations to uncover. Another possibility is that these traders fell victim to bandits or raiders. The lapis lazuli route was not only a path of commerce but also a target for those seeking to profit from the wealth it carried. Bandits, well versed in the art of ambush, could have attacked caravans, taking both the lapis lazuli and the lives of those transporting it. In some cases, entire trading parties may have been captured or enslaved, disappearing from historical records entirely. The lack of written accounts from the traders themselves makes it difficult to confirm these theories, adding to the mystery. The disappearance of these traders had a ripple effect on the ancient world. Without a steady supply of lapis lazuli, Mesopotamian artisans and rulers had to find alternatives, altering the cultural and economic landscape of the region. The loss of these traders also disrupted the flow of ideas and goods along the route, leaving gaps in our understanding of how these ancient networks functioned. What happened to the knowledge and stories these traders carried? Were there secrets of the route that died with them? Modern archaeologists and historians continue to search for clues about the fate of these vanished traders. Excavations along the lapis lazuli route have uncovered fragments of lapis lazuli and remnants of ancient caravans, but the full story remains elusive. Could there be hidden caches of the gemstone buried by traders to protect their wealth, or perhaps undiscovered grave sites that hold the answers to their disappearance? The mystery of the lapis lazuli route reminds us that even the most valuable treasures of the ancient world were not immune to the dangers of their time. As we leave the shimmering blue trails of lapis lazuli behind, our next stop takes us to the forgotten routes of the Bronze Age, where the rise and fall of early civilizations hold their own secrets waiting to be uncovered. Now let's journey even further back in time to the Bronze Age, a period when humanity first began to forge connections across vast distances. The trade routes of this era were the lifeblood of early civilizations, enabling the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies that shaped the course of history. Yet many of these routes and the bustling hubs they connected have vanished from the historical record, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. The Bronze Age was a time of remarkable innovation, with societies mastering the art of metallurgy to create tools, weapons, and ornaments that transformed daily life. Copper and tin, the essential ingredients for bronze, were highly sought after, and their trade fueled the growth of powerful cities and empires. However, the routes that carried these precious metals and the hubs where they were exchanged have largely disappeared, leaving historians to piece together their stories from scattered clues. One of the most intriguing mysteries of this era is the sudden decline of key trading hubs. Cities that once thrived as centers of commerce and culture were abandoned, their streets left silent and their markets empty. What caused these once vibrant hubs to fall into obscurity? Some theories point to natural disasters such as earthquakes or prolonged droughts, which could have disrupted trade and forced populations to relocate. Others suggest that invasions or internal conflicts may have led to the collapse of these hubs, severing the trade routes that depended on them. The disappearance of these hubs had far-reaching consequences for the civilizations of the Bronze Age. Without access to vital resources like copper and tin, societies struggled to maintain their technological advancements. The loss of trade networks also meant a decline in the exchange of ideas, slowing the pace of cultural and scientific progress. In some cases, entire civilizations faltered, their achievements forgotten until modern archaeologists began to uncover their secrets. One of the most fascinating aspects of these forgotten routes is the evidence they leave behind. Ancient shipwrecks, buried hoards of bronze artifacts, and remnants of long-abandoned settlements offer tantalizing glimpses into the past. For example, the discovery of shipwrecks in the Mediterranean has revealed the extent of maritime trade during the Bronze Age, while excavations in Central Asia have uncovered traces of overland routes that once connected distant regions. Yet, despite these findings, many questions remain. Why were some routes abandoned while others endured? What role did climate change or shifting political alliances play in their decline? The forgotten routes of the Bronze Age remind us of the fragility of human connections and the profound impact of trade on the development of civilizations. As we continue to uncover the secrets of this ancient era, we gain a deeper understanding of how the exchange of goods and ideas shaped the world we live in today. And with that, we turn our attention to the enigmatic collapse of the Mycenaean trade network, a mystery that holds its own clues to the complexities of the ancient world. Now, as we step into the world of ancient Greece, we encounter one of the most perplexing mysteries of the Bronze Age, the sudden collapse of the Mycenaean trade network. This once thriving system connected the Mycenaean civilization, centered in mainland Greece, to distant lands across the Mediterranean and beyond. It was a lifeline for the exchange of goods like olive oil, wine, pottery, and precious metals, as well as ideas and technologies that fueled the growth of this remarkable culture. Yet, around the year 1150 before the Common Era, this network crumbled, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. The Mycenaeans were master traders, their influence stretching from the Aegean Sea to Egypt, the Levant, and even as far as the western Mediterranean. Their palaces, like those at Mycenae and Pylos, were bustling centers of commerce, where goods from distant lands were stored, processed, and redistributed. But the collapse of this network was swift and dramatic. Palaces were abandoned, trade routes fell silent, and the intricate system that had sustained Mycenaean society for centuries vanished almost overnight. What caused this sudden decline? Historians and archaeologists have proposed several theories, but none provide a definitive answer. One possibility is that natural disasters such as earthquakes or prolonged droughts disrupted the Mycenaean economy and weakened their ability to maintain trade. Another theory points to invasions by the so-called Sea Peoples, a mysterious group of raiders who wreaked havoc across the eastern Mediterranean during this period. These attacks could have severed vital trade links, leaving the Mycenaeans isolated and vulnerable. Internal strife may have also played a role. Evidence suggests that social unrest or political instability within Mycenaean society could have contributed to its downfall. The collapse of centralized authority would have made it difficult to organize and protect trade routes, leading to their gradual disintegration. Additionally, some scholars argue that a combination of these factors, natural disasters, external invasions, and internal conflict, created a perfect storm that overwhelmed the Mycenaean world. The collapse of the Mycenaean trade network had profound consequences for the ancient world. Without access to foreign goods and ideas, Mycenaean society entered a period of decline known as the Greek Dark Ages. Writing, art, and advanced technologies disappeared, and the once thriving palaces fell into ruin. It would take centuries for Greece to recover and for new trade networks to emerge, paving the way for the rise of classical Greek civilization. Yet, the legacy of the Mycenaean trade network endures. Archaeological discoveries, such as linear bead tablets found in Mycenaean palaces, provide glimpses into the complexity of their economy and the extent of their trade connections. Shipwrecks off the coast of Turkey and Cyprus have revealed cargoes of Mycenaean pottery and other goods, offering tangible evidence of their far-reaching influence. These findings remind us of the interconnectedness of the ancient world and the fragility of the systems that sustained it. As we ponder the enigma of the Mycenaean trade network, we are reminded of how much remains unknown about this pivotal period in history. What truly caused its collapse? Could it have been prevented? And what lessons can we draw from its decline about the resilience of human societies? These questions continue to intrigue scholars and enthusiasts alike, inviting us to explore the mysteries of the past and uncover the stories they hold. And with that, we turn our attention to the lost treasures of the Hanseatic League, another chapter in the saga of ancient trade routes and their enduring mysteries. Now, shifting our gaze to the medieval world, we uncover the mystery of the lost treasures of the Hanseatic League. This powerful network of merchant guilds dominated trade across northern Europe from the 13th to the 17th centuries, connecting cities like Lübeck, Hamburg, and Bruges in a web of commerce that stretched from the Baltic Sea to the North Sea. The Hanseatic League was a force to be reckoned with, controlling the flow of goods like timber, furs, grain, and salt. Yet, despite their vast wealth and influence, many of their treasures vanished without a trace, leaving behind a puzzle that continues to baffle historians. The Hanseatic League's success was built on its ability to protect its trade routes and ensure the safe passage of goods. However, this did not make them immune to the dangers of the medieval world. Piracy was a constant threat, particularly in the Baltic and North Seas, where ships laden with valuable cargo were prime targets for raiders. The waters around Gotland, an island in the Baltic, were especially notorious for pirate activity. It's possible that some of the League's lost treasures ended up at the bottom of the sea, sunk by pirates or lost in storms. Political upheaval also played a significant role in the disappearance of these treasures. The Hanseatic League's power relied on alliances and treaties with local rulers, but these relationships were often fragile. Wars, rebellions, and shifting political landscapes could disrupt trade routes and lead to the confiscation or destruction of goods. For example, during the Kalmar War in the early 15th century, conflicts between Denmark and Sweden disrupted Hanseatic trade in the Baltic, potentially leading to the loss of valuable shipments. Another factor to consider is the League's own internal struggles. As the organization grew, rivalries between member cities sometimes erupted into open conflict. These disputes could result in the looting or destruction of goods, as competing factions sought to undermine each other. Additionally, the decline of the Hanseatic League in the late medieval period, as new trade routes and economic systems emerged, may have contributed to the loss of its treasures. With the League's influence waning, many of its assets could have been scattered, stolen, or simply forgotten. The mystery of the Hanseatic League's lost treasures is further complicated by the lack of detailed records. While the League was highly organized, many of its documents have been lost to time, leaving gaps in our understanding of its operations. Archaeological discoveries, such as shipwrecks and hoards of coins, offer tantalizing clues, but they only tell part of the story. What happened to the rest of the League's wealth? Were these treasures hidden away in secret caches, lost in the chaos of war, or plundered by pirates? The answers remain elusive. As we reflect on the enigma of the Hanseatic League's lost treasures, we are reminded of the fragility of even the most powerful trade networks. The League's rise and fall offer valuable lessons about the interplay of commerce, politics, and security in shaping the course of history. And with that, we turn our attention to the Viking trade routes, where new mysteries await in the shadowy paths of the medieval north. Now, as we venture further into the shadows of history, we find ourselves tracing the footsteps of the Vikings, those legendary seafarers whose trade routes spanned vast distances and connected distant lands. The Vikings were not just raiders and warriors, they were also skilled traders who established a network of commerce that stretched from the icy fjords of Scandinavia to the bustling markets of Constantinople and beyond. Yet, despite their far-reaching influence, many aspects of Viking trade remain shrouded in mystery, particularly the unexplained disappearance of key trading posts that once thrived along their routes. One of the most intriguing gaps in our knowledge revolves around the sudden decline of trading hubs like Birka in Sweden and Hedeby in modern-day Germany. These settlements were once bustling centers of commerce, where goods such as furs, amber, and slaves were exchanged for silver, silk, and spices. Archaeological evidence suggests that these towns were vibrant and prosperous, yet by the late medieval period they had vanished almost entirely. What caused these thriving hubs to disappear? Was it due to shifting trade patterns, environmental changes, or perhaps even conflict? The Vikings' trade routes were as diverse as the lands they connected. To the west, they reached as far as Iceland, Greenland, and even North America, where they established a short-lived settlement at Eland's Orcs Meadows. To the east, their routes extended down the rivers of Russia, linking the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea and the Byzantine Empire. Along these waterways, they traded goods like walrus ivory, honey, and wax, which were highly prized in distant markets. Yet, despite the wealth generated by these routes, many of the trading posts along them were abandoned or lost to history. One theory suggests that the decline of Viking trade routes was tied to the rise of new economic powers in medieval Europe. As kingdoms like England and France grew stronger, they began to establish their own trade networks, bypassing the Viking-controlled routes. Additionally, the spread of Christianity in Scandinavia may have played a role, as it brought with it new cultural and economic systems that replaced the old ways of Viking commerce. The once thriving trading posts, now isolated and outdated, may have simply faded into obscurity. Another possibility is that environmental factors contributed to the disappearance of these trading hubs. The medieval period saw significant climatic changes, including the onset of the Little Ice Age, which brought colder temperatures and harsher conditions to northern Europe. These changes could have disrupted agriculture, made sea travel more dangerous, and ultimately led to the abandonment of settlements that were no longer viable. The Vikings, who relied heavily on their ability to navigate the seas, may have found their trade routes increasingly difficult to maintain. The mystery of the Viking trade routes is further deepened by the lack of written records from the Viking Age itself. Much of what we know comes from later sources, such as medieval chronicles and sagas, which often blend fact with legend. Archaeological discoveries, like the remains of ships and trading goods, provide valuable clues, but they only offer glimpses into a much larger story. What happened to the wealth generated by these routes? Were the trading posts destroyed, abandoned, or simply forgotten over time? The answers remain elusive. As we piece together the fragments of this ancient puzzle, we are reminded of the Vikings' remarkable ability to adapt and thrive in a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. Their trade routes were not just pathways for goods, they were conduits for ideas, culture, and innovation that shaped the medieval world. And with that, we turn our attention to the vanished amber ships of the Baltic, where another maritime mystery awaits. Shifting our gaze to the shimmering waters of the Baltic Sea, we encounter another maritime mystery that has baffled historians for centuries: the vanished amber ships. The Baltic region, rich in amber deposits, was once a hub of trade, with this golden resin being one of the most sought-after commodities in the ancient world. Ships laden with amber would set sail from the Baltic coast, destined for markets as far away as Rome and Constantinople. Yet many of these vessels never reached their destinations, disappearing without a trace. What happened to these ships, and why do their fates remain shrouded in mystery? One of the most compelling theories points to the treacherous nature of the Baltic Sea itself. Known for its sudden storms and unpredictable weather, the Baltic could transform from a calm expanse to a raging tempest in a matter of hours. Ships, often small and ill-equipped to handle such conditions, could easily be overwhelmed by towering waves and fierce winds. The remains of these vessels, along with their precious cargo, may still lie hidden beneath the sea, preserved by the cold, brackish waters. Could the Baltic's notorious storms have claimed these ships, leaving no survivors to tell the tale? Another possibility is piracy, a constant threat to ancient maritime trade. The Baltic Sea, with its numerous islands and hidden coves, provided the perfect hideouts for pirates. These raiders would ambush merchant ships, plundering their cargo and often leaving no trace of their victims. Amber, being lightweight and highly valuable, would have been a prime target. Some historians suggest that entire fleets of amber ships may have fallen prey to these marauders, their crews either killed or enslaved, and their cargo lost to the black market. The lack of records from these incidents only deepens the mystery. Uncharted hazards also played a role in the disappearance of these ships. The Baltic Sea, though well-traveled, was not fully mapped in ancient times. Hidden reefs, shifting sandbanks, and shallow waters posed significant risks to navigation. A single miscalculation could lead to disaster, with ships running aground or sinking before they could call for help. The discovery of shipwrecks in recent years has shed some light on these dangers, but many questions remain unanswered. Were these ships victims of natural obstacles, or were there other, more sinister forces at play? The amber trade itself adds another layer of intrigue. Amber was not just a luxury item, it held cultural and spiritual significance for many ancient societies. In some cultures, it was believed to possess magical properties, offering protection or healing. This made it even more valuable, and the loss of a ship carrying amber would have been a significant blow to both traders and their patrons. The disappearance of these ships may have been more than just a financial loss. It could have been seen as an omen or a sign of divine displeasure. As we piece together the fragments of this maritime puzzle, we are reminded of the risks and uncertainties that ancient traders faced. The vanished amber ships of the Baltic are a testament to the dangers of the sea and the fragility of human endeavors. Their stories, though lost to time, continue to captivate our imagination, inviting us to explore the mysteries that lie beneath the waves. And with that, we turn our attention to the lost routes of the ancient salt trade, where another enigmatic chapter of history awaits. Now, let's journey from the amber-laden waters of the Baltic to the arid landscapes where another precious commodity once flowed: salt. Often referred to as white gold, salt was not just a seasoning but a cornerstone of ancient economies, shaping trade routes, empires, and even wars. Yet, some of the most vital salt trade routes of antiquity vanished without explanation, leaving behind a trail of questions and intrigue. How did these routes disappear, and what impact did their loss have on the societies that depended on them? In the ancient world, salt was far more than a culinary staple. It was essential for food preservation, a critical resource in an era before refrigeration. Without salt, meat and fish would spoil quickly, making it indispensable for survival, especially in regions with harsh climates, but its value extended beyond practicality. Salt was a symbol of wealth and power, used as currency in some cultures and even offered as tribute to gods and rulers. In fact, the word salary derives from the Latin salarium, a term linked to the Roman practice of paying soldiers in salt. This gives us a glimpse into just how highly prized this mineral was. One of the most famous salt trade routes was the Via Salaria, or Salt Road, in ancient Rome. This route connected the salt pans of Ostia to the heart of the Roman Empire, ensuring a steady supply of this vital resource. Yet, as Rome's influence waned, so too did the prominence of this route. Over time, sections of the Via Salaria fell into disuse, their paths reclaimed by nature or repurposed for other needs. The reasons for this decline are complex, ranging from shifting political power to changes in trade priorities. But the disappearance of such a critical route raises questions about how ancient societies adapted, or failed to adapt, to the loss of their salt supply. Another enigmatic example lies in the Sahara Desert, where the Trans-Saharan salt trade once thrived. Caravans of camels, known as the ships of the desert, transported vast quantities of salt from mines like those in Taghaza to markets in West Africa. This trade was so lucrative that cities like Timbuktu flourished as hubs of commerce and culture. Yet, over time, these routes began to fade. Some historians point to the rise of alternative sources of salt, while others suggest that environmental changes such as desertification made the journey increasingly perilous. Whatever the cause, the disappearance of these routes left a void in the region's economy, one that was felt for generations. The mystery deepens when we consider the role of salt in warfare and conquest. Control over salt sources often meant control over entire populations. In ancient China, for example, the state monopoly on salt production funded military campaigns and infrastructure projects. When salt routes were disrupted, whether by natural disasters, bandits, or rival powers, the consequences could be catastrophic. Entire communities might face famine or economic collapse as the loss of salt disrupted food preservation and trade networks. The disappearance of these routes wasn't just a logistical challenge, it was a matter of survival. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the lost salt trade routes is their cultural significance. In many societies, salt was imbued with spiritual meaning, used in rituals and ceremonies to purify or protect. The loss of a salt route, therefore, wasn't just an economic blow, it could also be seen as a spiritual crisis. This duality of salt, as both a practical necessity and a sacred symbol, adds another layer of complexity to the mystery of its vanished trade routes. As we reflect on the lost routes of the ancient salt trade, we're reminded of the delicate balance that sustained ancient economies. Salt, though seemingly mundane, was a lifeline for countless civilizations, its trade routes arteries that connected distant lands and peoples. The disappearance of these routes speaks to the fragility of human systems and the unpredictable forces, both natural and man-made, that can reshape history. And with that, we turn our attention to the enigma of the Silk Road's hidden passages, where secrets of smuggling and survival await. Now, as we shift our focus from the vanished salt trade routes, let's uncover the secrets of the Silk Road's hidden passages. These clandestine pathways, often overlooked in the grand narrative of this legendary trade network, hold their own mysteries. While the Silk Road is celebrated for its bustling markets and cultural exchanges, beneath its surface lay a shadowy world of covert routes, used for purposes both practical and perilous. The Silk Road, stretching from China to the Mediterranean, was not a single, well-defined path but a sprawling network of interconnected routes. Among these were hidden passages known only to a select few. These secret paths served as lifelines for those seeking to evade danger or transport goods away from prying eyes. Smugglers, spies, and fugitives alike relied on these concealed trails to navigate the Silk Road's vast and often treacherous terrain. But why were these hidden passages necessary, and what can they tell us about the challenges of ancient trade? One theory suggests that these secret routes were used to bypass tolls and taxes imposed by local rulers. Along the Silk Road, caravans were frequently stopped at checkpoints, where merchants were required to pay hefty fees to continue their journey. For those unwilling or unable to pay, hidden passages offered a way to circumvent these obstacles. These routes, often carved through rugged mountains or concealed within dense forests, allowed traders to move their goods without detection, yet the risks were immense. Traveling off the beaten path meant facing harsh conditions, bandits, and the constant threat of getting lost. Another intriguing possibility is that these hidden passages were used to transport forbidden or highly valuable goods. Items like silk, spices, and precious metals were heavily regulated, and smuggling them could yield enormous profits. Some historians believe that these secret routes were part of an underground network, connecting distant markets and enabling the flow of contraband. The existence of such a network raises questions about the extent of ancient smuggling operations and the ingenuity of those who navigated these perilous paths. But the hidden passages of the Silk Road were not just about profit or evasion. In times of conflict or political upheaval, these routes became vital escape corridors. Refugees, dissidents, and even entire communities fleeing war or persecution used these secret paths to seek safety. The Silk Road, often seen as a symbol of connection and exchange, also bore witness to the darker side of human history: displacement, survival, and the lengths people would go to protect themselves and their loved ones. The mystery of these hidden passages is further deepened by their elusive nature. Unlike the main trade routes, which left behind clear archaeological evidence, the secret paths of the Silk Road are far harder to trace. Their existence is often inferred from ancient texts, oral traditions, or the occasional discovery of artifacts in unexpected locations. This lack of concrete evidence only adds to their allure, inviting us to imagine the stories of those who once walked these forgotten trails. As we ponder the enigma of the Silk Road's hidden passages, we're reminded that history is not always written in bold strokes. Sometimes it's the quiet, unseen moments, the whispered secrets of a smuggler, the hurried footsteps of a fugitive, that reveal the true complexity of the past. These hidden routes, though shrouded in mystery, offer a glimpse into the resilience and resourcefulness of those who navigated one of the world's most famous trade networks. And with that, we turn to another riddle: the forgotten trade routes of the Indus Valley, where an ancient civilization's secrets await discovery. Now, as we journey from the shadowy hidden passages of the Silk Road, let's step back in time to explore one of the earliest and most enigmatic trade networks in human history: the forgotten trade routes of the Indus Valley. This ancient civilization, flourishing over 4,000 years ago, was once a hub of commerce and cultural exchange, connecting distant regions in ways that still puzzle historians today. But what led to the sudden decline of this thriving network, and what secrets does it hold about the interconnected world of antiquity? The Indus Valley civilization, stretching across what is now modern-day Pakistan and northwest India, was one of the most advanced societies of its time. Known for its meticulously planned cities, sophisticated drainage systems, and intricate craftsmanship, it was also a powerhouse of trade. Archaeological evidence reveals that the Indus people traded extensively with neighboring regions, including Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Artifacts such as beads, seals, and pottery found in Mesopotamian sites bear striking similarities to those produced in the Indus Valley, suggesting a vibrant exchange of goods and ideas. But here's where the mystery deepens. Around 1900 BC, the Indus Valley civilization began to decline, and its once bustling trade routes fell into obscurity. The reasons for this collapse remain one of history's greatest riddles. Some scholars point to environmental factors, such as climate change or the shifting course of rivers, which may have disrupted agriculture and trade. Others suggest that invasions or internal conflicts could have destabilized the region. Yet, despite these theories, no single explanation fully accounts for the civilization's sudden and dramatic decline. One of the most intriguing aspects of this mystery is the connection between the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia. The two civilizations were not only trading partners but also shared cultural and technological influences. Mesopotamian texts mention a distant land called Meluha, which many believe refers to the Indus Valley. These texts describe the import of exotic goods like ivory, lapis lazuli, and carnelian, all of which were abundant in the Indus region. But as the Indus trade network crumbled, so too did these connections, leaving behind unanswered questions about the nature of their relationship. What happened to the traders who once navigated these routes? Did they simply vanish, or did they adapt to new circumstances? The lack of written records from the Indus Valley makes it difficult to piece together the full story. Unlike Mesopotamia, which left behind a wealth of cuneiform tablets, the Indus script remains undeciphered, leaving historians to rely on archaeological clues and educated guesses. This silence only adds to the allure of the Indus Valley's forgotten trade routes, inviting us to imagine the lives of those who once thrived along them. As we reflect on the decline of the Indus Valley trade network, we're reminded of the fragility of even the most advanced civilizations. The loss of these routes not only disrupted commerce but also severed cultural ties that had endured for centuries. Yet, the legacy of the Indus Valley lives on in the artifacts and ruins that continue to captivate archaeologists and historians. And as we turn our attention to the next riddle, the mystery of the ancient copper trade, we'll uncover yet another chapter in the complex story of humanity's interconnected past. Now, shifting our focus from the enigmatic decline of the Indus Valley trade network, we turn our attention to another ancient mystery that shaped the course of human history: the disappearance of the ancient copper trade routes. Copper, one of the first metals ever used by humans, played a pivotal role in the development of early civilizations. Its malleability and conductivity made it invaluable for tools, weapons, and ornaments, and its trade connected distant regions in ways that laid the groundwork for future economic systems. Yet, despite its importance, the copper trade routes that once thrived across the ancient world vanished, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. The story of copper begins in the Neolithic period, when early humans first discovered its potential. By the Bronze Age, copper had become a cornerstone of technological advancement, often alloyed with tin to create bronze, a stronger and more durable material. This innovation revolutionized societies, enabling the creation of more effective tools, weapons, and infrastructure. Trade routes emerged to transport copper from mining regions to areas where it was in high demand, creating a network that spanned continents. From the mines of Cyprus, which gave copper its name, to the distant reaches of Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley, copper became a symbol of wealth and progress. But what led to the sudden decline of these vital trade routes? One theory points to the exhaustion of key copper mines. As easily accessible deposits were depleted, the cost and effort required to extract copper increased, making trade less profitable. Another possibility is the rise of alternative materials such as iron, which began to dominate during the Iron Age. Iron was more abundant and could be used to create stronger tools and weapons, reducing the demand for copper and bronze. This shift in technology may have rendered the once thriving copper trade routes obsolete. The disappearance of these routes had far-reaching consequences. Early metallurgy, which relied heavily on copper, faced significant challenges as supplies dwindled. Economies that had grown dependent on copper trade were forced to adapt, often leading to periods of instability and decline. The loss of these networks also disrupted cultural exchanges, as the movement of goods and ideas along these routes came to a halt. For example, the decline of copper trade in the Mediterranean region may have contributed to the collapse of several Bronze Age civilizations, including the Mycenaeans and the Hittites. Yet, the mystery of the ancient copper trade is not just about its decline. It's also about the legacy it left behind. The techniques developed for mining, smelting, and trading copper laid the foundation for future metallurgical advancements. The trade routes themselves, though no longer active, influenced the development of later networks, such as those used for the exchange of iron and other metals. In this way, the story of copper is a testament to humanity's ability to innovate and adapt, even in the face of profound challenges. As we ponder the disappearance of these ancient trade routes, we're reminded of the delicate balance that sustains civilizations. The loss of a single resource like copper could ripple through societies, reshaping economies and cultures in ways that echo across centuries. And as we move forward to explore the next riddle, the lost routes of the Spice Islands, we'll uncover yet another layer of the intricate web that connected the ancient world. Now, as we journey from the fading echoes of the ancient copper trade, we set our sights on a new enigma that once tantalized the senses and shaped empires: the lost routes of the Spice Islands. Nestled in the heart of Southeast Asia, the Spice Islands, also known as the Moluccas, were once the epicenter of a global trade network that brought cloves, nutmeg, and mace to distant corners of the world. These islands were so coveted that they sparked fierce competition among European powers, leading to centuries of conflict and exploration. Yet, despite their historical significance, the trade routes that connected the Spice Islands to the rest of the world mysteriously faded, leaving behind a puzzle that continues to intrigue historians. The story of the Spice Islands begins with their unique geography and climate, which made them the only place on Earth where certain spices grew naturally. For centuries, these spices were transported along intricate maritime routes that stretched from the Moluccas to the Middle East, Europe, and beyond. Arab traders were among the first to dominate these routes, bringing spices to the Mediterranean and fueling the imaginations of European merchants. The demand for these exotic flavors was so high that they became symbols of wealth and power, often worth more than their weight in gold. But as European powers like Portugal, Spain, and the Netherlands entered the fray, the balance of power shifted dramatically. Colonialism played a significant role in the disappearance of these ancient trade routes. The arrival of European powers in the 16th century marked the beginning of a new era of exploitation and control. The Dutch, in particular, sought to monopolize the spice trade, establishing the Dutch East India Company and imposing strict regulations on production and trade. They destroyed spice trees on islands outside their control and restricted access to the Moluccas, effectively cutting off traditional trade networks. This aggressive approach not only disrupted centuries-old routes, but also led to the decline of local economies and cultures that had thrived on the spice trade. Natural disasters also contributed to the vanishing of these routes. The Spice Islands are located in a region prone to volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and tsunamis, which could devastate ports and disrupt shipping. For example, the eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815, one of the most powerful volcanic events in recorded history, had far-reaching consequences for the region. Such disasters could destroy entire fleets, wipe out trading posts, and alter coastlines, making navigation along these routes perilous and unpredictable. Over time, these challenges may have made the spice trade less viable, leading to the gradual abandonment of key routes. The disappearance of these trade routes had profound implications for the Spice Islands and the world. The once thriving networks that connected the Moluccas to distant markets were replaced by colonial monopolies which prioritized profit over cultural exchange. The loss of these routes also marked the end of an era when spices were not just commodities but bridges between civilizations, fostering connections and mutual understanding. Today, the legacy of the Spice Islands lives on in the flavors that continue to enrich our cuisines, but the mystery of their lost routes reminds us of the fragility of human connections and the forces that can sever them. As we reflect on the lost routes of the Spice Islands, we're reminded of the delicate interplay between human ambition and the natural world. The spices that once fueled empires now serve as a testament to the enduring allure of the unknown. And as we prepare to uncover the next riddle, the enigma of the ancient pearl trade, we'll delve into another chapter of history where beauty, wealth, and mystery intertwine. Shifting our focus from the fragrant allure of spices, we now turn to a treasure that gleamed beneath the waves, the enigmatic world of the ancient pearl trade. For centuries, pearls were more than just jewels. They were symbols of wealth, power, and divine favor, coveted by kings, queens, and empires alike. Yet, the once thriving trade routes that brought these luminous gems from the depths of the ocean to the courts of the world mysteriously declined, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. The story of pearls begins in the warm, shallow waters of the Persian Gulf, the Indian Ocean, and the South China Sea, where natural pearls were harvested by skilled divers. These divers, often risking their lives, would plunge into the depths to retrieve oysters, hoping to find the rare and perfect pearl hidden within. The pearls they discovered were not just ornaments but status symbols worn by royalty and nobility to signify their prestige. In ancient Rome, pearls were so highly prized that they were said to be worth their weight in gold, while in China they were believed to embody wisdom and spiritual purity. The trade routes that carried these precious gems were as intricate as the pearls themselves. From the Persian Gulf, pearls traveled along the Silk Road, reaching markets as far as Rome and Constantinople. In the Indian Ocean, they were traded alongside spices and textiles, creating a network that connected the East and West. Key trading hubs such as Bahrain and Sri Lanka flourished as centers of pearl commerce, their wealth built on the shimmering treasures of the sea. Yet, over time, these hubs began to fade, and the trade routes that once buzzed with activity fell silent. One of the most puzzling aspects of the ancient pearl trade is its sudden decline. While overharvesting and the depletion of natural oyster beds played a role, they don't fully explain the disappearance of entire trading networks. Some historians point to the rise of cultured pearls in the early 20th century as a turning point. These man-made pearls, though beautiful, lack the mystique and rarity of natural ones, leading to a shift in demand. Others suggest that political upheaval and the collapse of empires disrupted the trade routes, leaving once thriving hubs isolated and forgotten. The disappearance of the ancient pearl trade also reflects broader changes in the world. As new technologies and industries emerged, the allure of pearls began to wane. The rise of gemstones like diamonds and emeralds, along with changing fashion trends, further diminished their prominence. Yet, the legacy of the pearl trade endures not just in the jewels themselves, but in the stories they tell of human ambition, ingenuity, and the quest for beauty. As we unravel the enigma of the ancient pearl trade, we're reminded of how something as small as a pearl could shape the course of history. These gems, born from the depths of the ocean, once connected distant lands and cultures, their journey a testament to the power of trade to bridge divides. And now, as we prepare to explore the next riddle, the vanished routes of the ancient ivory trade, we'll uncover another chapter where wealth, desire, and mystery collide. Now, as we turn our attention from the shimmering depths of the pearl trade, we find ourselves stepping into a world where ivory once reigned supreme. The ancient ivory trade, much like the pearl trade, was a cornerstone of wealth and power, but its story is one of both grandeur and tragedy. Ivory, prized for its beauty and versatility, was a luxury item that adorned palaces, temples, and the homes of the elite. Yet, the routes that carried this precious material across continents have vanished, leaving behind a mystery as complex as the trade itself. The origins of the ivory trade can be traced back to the heart of Africa, where elephants roamed vast savannas and dense forests. For centuries, hunters ventured into these lands, seeking the tusks that would become symbols of status and artistry. From there, ivory traveled along intricate networks, reaching as far as the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and even ancient China. In Egypt, ivory was used to craft intricate statues and ceremonial objects, while in Rome, it adorned the homes of the wealthy. The demand for ivory was insatiable, driving a trade that connected distant cultures and fueled economies. However, the very success of the ivory trade sowed the seeds of its decline. Overhunting, driven by the relentless demand for tusks, led to the decimation of elephant populations. As herds dwindled, the supply of ivory began to dry up, and the trade routes that once thrived started to falter. This wasn't just a matter of scarcity, it was a collapse of an entire system. The loss of elephants disrupted ecosystems and, in turn, the livelihoods of communities that depended on them. The ivory trade, once a symbol of prosperity, became a cautionary tale of exploitation and imbalance. But overhunting wasn't the only factor. Shifting trade networks also played a significant role in the disappearance of these routes. As empires rose and fell, the political and economic landscapes changed, altering the flow of goods. New trade routes emerged, bypassing traditional hubs and leaving once bustling centers of ivory commerce in decline. The rise of alternative materials such as bone and horn further reduced the demand for ivory, accelerating its fall from prominence. By the time the modern era dawned, the ancient ivory trade routes had all but vanished, their legacy preserved only in the artifacts and records left behind. The disappearance of these routes raises profound questions about the relationship between humans and the natural world. Ivory, once a symbol of wealth and artistry, became a reminder of the consequences of unchecked exploitation. Its story is a testament to the fragility of trade networks and the delicate balance that sustains them. As we reflect on the vanished routes of the ancient ivory trade, we're reminded of how deeply interconnected our histories are, not just with each other, but with the world around us. And now, as we prepare to delve into the next riddle, the mystery of the ancient textile trade, we'll uncover how something as everyday as fabric wove together the threads of civilizations, creating patterns of connection that endure to this day. Shifting our focus from the vanished routes of ivory, we now unravel the threads of another ancient mystery, the textile trade. Textiles, often overlooked in the grand narratives of history, were among the most essential commodities of the ancient world. From the linen of Egypt to the silk of China, fabrics were not just practical items but symbols of culture, status, and power. Yet, despite their importance, the trade routes that carried these textiles across continents remain shrouded in mystery, leaving us with tantalizing gaps in our understanding. The story of ancient textiles begins with the raw materials: wool, cotton, flax, and silk, each cultivated and crafted with remarkable skill. In Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, wool was spun into garments that clothed kings and commoners alike. In the Indus Valley, cotton was woven into fine fabrics that were traded as far as Mesopotamia and Egypt. Meanwhile, in China, the secret of silk production was guarded so closely that it became a symbol of exclusivity and wealth. These textiles traveled along routes that connected distant lands, weaving together the economies and cultures of the ancient world. But how did these fabrics move from one region to another? The answer lies in the intricate networks of trade routes that crisscrossed continents. The Silk Road, for instance, is often associated with silk, but it also carried cotton, wool, and other textiles. Caravans laden with bolts of fabric traversed deserts, mountains, and rivers, linking producers in one part of the world with consumers in another. Along the way, textiles were exchanged for spices, metals, and other goods, creating a web of commerce that spanned the globe. Yet, despite the abundance of archaeological evidence, fragments of cloth, loom weights, and spindle whorls, much about these trade routes remains unknown. For instance, how did textile production and trade adapt to the rise and fall of empires? What role did middlemen play in the distribution of fabrics, and why do some regions, like Sub-Saharan Africa, have so little evidence of ancient textile trade despite their rich cultural traditions? These questions highlight the gaps in our knowledge, reminding us that the story of ancient textiles is far from complete. One of the most intriguing aspects of the textile trade is its connection to technology and innovation. The invention of the loom, for example, revolutionized fabric production, allowing for more intricate designs and faster output. Similarly, the development of dyeing techniques transformed plain cloth into vibrant works of art, increasing its value and desirability. Yet, the spread of these technologies remains poorly understood. Did they travel along trade routes carried by merchants and artisans, or were they independently developed in different regions? The answers to these questions could shed light on how knowledge and ideas moved across the ancient world. As we piece together the fragments of this ancient trade, we're reminded of the enduring legacy of textiles. They were more than just commodities, they were expressions of identity, artistry, and connection. From the robes of pharaohs to the tunics of Roman citizens, textiles told stories of who people were and where they came from. And while the routes that carried these fabrics may have faded into history, their impact on the world remains woven into the fabric of our shared past. Now, as we prepare to explore the next riddle, the lost routes of the ancient wine trade, we'll uncover how a simple beverage became a symbol of culture and commerce, connecting distant lands in ways that still resonate today. Turning our attention to the ancient world's love affair with wine, we uncover a riddle that intertwines culture, commerce, and mystery. wine, far more than a simple beverage, was a symbol of status, a marker of civilization, and a cornerstone of ancient trade. From the vineyards of the Mediterranean to the banquet halls of Mesopotamia, wine flowed along routes that connected empires, yet many of these pathways have vanished from history, leaving behind tantalizing questions. The story of wine begins thousands of years ago, with its origins often traced to the fertile valleys of the Caucasus and the Near East. Here, the cultivation of grapes and the art of winemaking were perfected, transforming wine into a prized commodity. In ancient Egypt, wine was reserved for the elite, often buried with pharaohs to accompany them into the afterlife. In Greece, it became central to religious rituals and social gatherings, celebrated in the works of poets and philosophers. And in Rome, wine was a daily staple, consumed by all classes and exported to the farthest reaches of the empire. But how did wine travel from its place of origin to distant markets? The answer lies in the intricate network of trade routes that crisscrossed the ancient world. Amphorae, the clay jars used to transport wine, have been found in shipwrecks and archaeological sites from the Mediterranean to the Black Sea, offering clues about these lost pathways. The Phoenicians, renowned seafarers, played a key role in spreading wine across the Mediterranean, while Roman roads and ports facilitated its movement over land and by sea. Yet, despite this evidence, many of these routes remain elusive, their exact paths obscured by time. One of the most puzzling aspects of the ancient wine trade is its sudden decline in certain regions. For example, in parts of the Roman Empire, wine production and trade flourished for centuries, only to dwindle as the empire fragmented. What caused this decline? Was it due to changing tastes, economic collapse, or the rise of new trade networks? Similarly, in the Near East, where wine once held cultural and religious significance, its trade routes faded with the spread of Islam, which discouraged alcohol consumption. These shifts raise questions about how cultural and political changes reshaped ancient economies. Another mystery lies in the role of wine as a symbol of power and prestige. In many ancient societies, the ability to produce, trade, and consume wine was a mark of sophistication and wealth. Kings and emperors used wine to display their status, hosting lavish banquets where rare vintages were served. But how did these practices influence the development of trade routes? Did the demand for luxury wines create specialized networks, or were they integrated into broader trade systems? The answers to these questions could reveal how cultural values shaped ancient commerce. As we explore the lost routes of the ancient wine trade, we're reminded of its enduring legacy. Wine was more than a drink. It was a bridge between cultures, a medium of exchange, and a testament to human ingenuity. From the vineyards of antiquity to the tables of modern connoisseurs, its story is one of connection and transformation. And while the routes that carried it may have faded, their influence lingers in the traditions and tastes that define our world today. With this mystery still swirling in our minds, we now turn to the final riddle, the enigma of the ancient slave trade, a dark chapter in history that remains shrouded in unanswered questions. As we step into the shadows of history, we confront one of the most haunting riddles of ancient trade, the enigma of the ancient slave trade. This dark chapter, woven into the fabric of countless civilizations, remains one of the most elusive and unsettling mysteries of the ancient world. While we know that slavery was a grim reality across empires, the precise routes and mechanisms of this trade are often lost to time, leaving us with more questions than answers. The ancient slave trade was a sprawling network that connected distant lands, from the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean, and from the Sahara to the steppes of Central Asia. Slaves were not merely laborers, they were commodities traded alongside spices, textiles, and precious metals. In Rome, slaves built aqueducts and served in households. In Egypt, they toiled in mines and temples, and in Mesopotamia, they were integral to the economy, yet their stories are rarely told. The question that lingers is this: How did these vast networks operate, and why do so many of their details remain hidden? One of the greatest challenges in unraveling this mystery is the lack of written records. Unlike other trade goods, slaves were often treated as invisible, their lives and journeys undocumented. While we have detailed accounts of the spice and silk trades, the slave trade is often mentioned only in passing, if at all. This silence speaks volumes about the societies that relied on slavery, but it leaves historians with little to work with. For example, we know that the Phoenicians were key players in the Mediterranean slave trade, but their exact routes and methods remain unclear. Similarly, the role of the Silk Road in transporting slaves from Central Asia to the Middle East is hinted at in scattered texts, but the full picture is still missing. Another layer of mystery lies in the shifting nature of the slave trade over time. In some periods, such as during the height of the Roman Empire, slavery was a highly organized system, with laws governing the treatment and sale of slaves. Yet, as empires rose and fell, so too did the networks that supplied them with human labor. The collapse of Rome, for instance, led to a decline in large-scale slavery in Europe, but it persisted in other forms in the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world. What caused these shifts and how did they reshape the trade routes? The answers are buried beneath centuries of history. The cultural and ethical dimensions of the ancient slave trade add further complexity to this riddle. In many societies, slavery was not just an economic institution but a deeply ingrained social practice. The Greeks and Romans, for example, saw slavery as a natural part of life, while in other cultures it was tied to warfare and conquest. Yet, as religions like Christianity and Islam spread, attitudes towards slavery began to change, influencing how and where slaves were traded. These cultural shifts raise questions about how morality and economics intersected in the ancient world and how they shaped the trade routes that carried human lives. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of this riddle is the human cost. Behind every trade route, every ledger, and every shipwreck, there were countless individuals whose stories we may never know. The ancient slave trade was not just a network of goods, it was a network of suffering, resilience, and survival. And while we may never fully understand its intricacies, we owe it to those who endured it to uncover as much as we can. As we close this chapter on the ancient slave trade, we're reminded of the enduring power of history to challenge and enlighten us. This riddle, like so many others, invites us to look beyond the surface and confront the complexities of our shared past. And with that, we conclude our journey through the 30 unsolved riddles of ancient trade routes, each one a testament to the mysteries that still captivate us today. If you've enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more historical mysteries. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep uncovering the stories that shape our world. As we bring our journey through the 30 unsolved riddles of ancient trade routes to a close, it's impossible not to marvel at the sheer depth of mystery that still surrounds these ancient pathways. From the Lost City of Ubar to the vanished ships of the maritime Silk Road, each riddle offers a tantalizing glimpse into a world where trade was not just about goods, but about the movement of ideas, cultures, and people. These routes were the lifeblood of civilizations, connecting distant lands and shaping the course of history in ways we are still striving to understand. What makes these riddles so compelling is not just their complexity, but the way they challenge us to rethink what we know about the past. Take, for example, the enigma of the Phoenician purple dye, a secret so closely guarded that it vanished with its creators. Or consider the lost gold of the Trans-Saharan trade, swallowed by the shifting sands of the desert, leaving behind only whispers of its existence. These mysteries remind us that history is not a static record, but a living, evolving story full of gaps and questions that invite us to dig deeper. And then there are the human stories, the traders, sailors, and artisans whose lives were intertwined with these routes. The forgotten middlemen of the spice trade, the vanished caravans of the Silk Road, and the lost miners of King Solomon's fabled mines, all of them remind us that behind every riddle lies a human experience waiting to be uncovered. These stories are not just about the past, they are about us, about our shared humanity and the ways we navigate the world. As we reflect on these 30 riddles, it's clear that they are more than just historical puzzles. They are windows into the ingenuity, resilience, and ambition of ancient societies. They challenge us to think about how trade shaped the world we live in today, and how the echoes of these ancient routes still resonate in our globalized world. Whether it's the mystery of the Amber Road's hidden treasures or the unexplained decline of the Roman glass trade, each riddle invites us to explore, to question, and to imagine. So, which of these riddles intrigues you the most? Is it the lost city of Ubar, the vanished caravans of the Silk Road, or perhaps the enigma of the ancient slave trade? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and theories. And if you've enjoyed this journey through the mysteries of ancient trade routes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more historical explorations. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep uncovering the stories that shape our world. History is waiting for you.